Hello, everyone. Semi-retired Bob here. I talk about the carnivore diet, all things related to the carnivore diet, and miscellaneous odds and ends. Happy Friday, everyone. Here I am back with you again after quite a while away from doing live streams. I'm sure several of you have many questions for me, but first off, let's get this out of the way. Can you hear me? Someone let me know you can hear me okay. Granny Farrell has been in the comments already this morning, reminding everybody to go hit that like button. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get as big as either of those guys on anytime soon. And Granny Farrell says that she can hear me. So how are you doing today, Granny? It's been an interesting couple of weeks, to say the least. I have started the No Excuses Walking Challenge. That's going to go, it's not even really a walking challenge, it's a No Excuses Challenge running from now till the end of the year. I'm going to walk at least 20,000 steps a day, which is about 8 miles. I've already been out twice today. And because of the live stream, I'm going to have to do my last set of laps in the dark after the live stream, because it gets dark really early here now. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's winter time, but I'm going to go out and get a little more walking in because I'm still a little bit short of today's goal, and I want to keep up with it. But on top of that, I've been doing push-ups and squats on alternating days. No set specific number, just doing 2 sets to failure, like Coach Bronson and Jonathan at Carnivore Muscle tell us we should. I'm going to get a drink of water here. And I have to admit, it's been, I won't say it's been a struggle, but my legs are really getting tired, and I'm looking forward to Tuesday, even though there's no dance class this Tuesday due to Thanksgiving. I'm still going to take Tuesday off from doing everything because I think the body needs rest to recover. Let's get back into the comments here and see what, yep, she went out and had a 20-ounce ribeye. She can hear you. Yep, a little achy, but I'll be okay. Well, I'm glad you're recovering from the flu. As you come in, be sure and say hi so I can say hi back to you. I don't have a whole lot planned for today's live stream because I expected quite a few questions to come in about my new off-grid property. Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can get, let's see here, desktop. Here's the Terlingua. Yeah. Now let's see if I can share. I don't know how to do that. Maybe it's going to present. Share screen. Nope. I guess I don't know how to do that. Okay. Well, it's blocked from your screen. Okay. Well, anyway. Yeah, I was hoping to maybe put up pictures of where my new property is, but I don't know how to do that. As you can see, I'm back in StreamYard over EVMux just because both free versions are about the same, and I'm more familiar with StreamYard. So if I'm going to use a free version, we won't have my fancy logo up in this corner and a few other little odds and ends, but I know how to use it, and it's free. So here we are. And John has arrived. Hello, I'm so happy you're going live at this time because I can catch the whole live. Well, I'm happy you're here. It will probably change back to the earlier time when the miniature golf season begins. That's a picture of the miniature golf course behind me, by the way. One of the pictures I've taken of it. It certainly doesn't look like that right now. It's been cold and snowy out. But I'm glad you're making it, John. Howdy, Bob. Howdy, beautiful people. Hello, Josephine. I am glad you are here as well. Yeah, the thing I'd hope to avoid, we're not supposed to get snow like a bunch of the country is already getting today and tomorrow. They're calling for a big snowstorm over Thanksgiving week. We're not getting that here. We're just getting cold. I looked at the forecast and, it was 24 degrees when I woke up this morning. And that's the coldest morning for a while until next Tuesday. It's supposed to be a high of 34 for the day and get down into the teens at night. So we'll see. I'm not wild about being here for the cold weather, but hey, that's the way things work out. I don't think I can properly describe. I wish I hadn't been so mad and I would have remembered to take some pictures so that people could see that it almost looked like snowdrifts, but it was just crap that had been washed down onto the county road, and then the county road plowed it off to the sides of my old property. It would have been like trying to walk through higher than head deep snowdrifts, only the snowdrifts were made out of sand and silt and sticks and cactuses. I just didn't feel comfortable about even trying to walk out to the property because it would have been about a mile through that tall stuff. That's just, these things happen. I had one person comment about buying land sight unseen, but at the prices we're talking about, yeah, if I was spending $150,000, $200,000 on a chunk of land where land is expensive, I would go look at it first. But we're talking about desert chunks in Texas. And like I said, the yearly, they don't really call it a homeowners association. It's like a landowners alliance or something, but I want to say 209 or 229. It's less than $250 a year, but more than 200 that each landowner has to pay into the association. But one of the big things that they do is they keep the roads passable. Now, what that actually means, I don't know, but they have a whole big list of driving instructions on how to help keep the roads in shape between maintenance times. If it's raining, try not to drive on the roads, keep your speed down. If there's ruts, don't drive in the ruts. Just basic common sense stuff that apparently we need to say because not many people have such common sense anymore. Keto Carney Cajun is here. Happy Friday, Bob. When do you get a new background pics of the new digs? I tried to get it done today, but I couldn't remember exactly how I did the other ones. So it's coming hopefully tomorrow for next Friday's live stream. I am planning on having a live stream next Friday, even though it's Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. Speaking of Black Friday, have I got a deal for you guys? I came up with because everybody's always having their big sales. Next Friday is the day everybody out just goes nuts over sales and how to, buy stuff cheaper. The best way to save money is don't buy anything next Friday, and you will save 100% of what you were going to spend. That's just my 2 cents. Follow me for more money-saving tips. That's okay. At least I get to see the whole live today. And Granny Farrell says, I'm glad you've got a road. Terlinga is infamous for their chili cook-off. Don't get pulled in. There's other chances to be social. Yeah, that's one of the things. I'm actually kind of anxious to see all the stuff down there because they have the chili cook-off, of course, is that and the ghost town are the two things. If you go to your favorite search engine and type in Terlingua, the chili cook-off and the ghost town are the two most popular search results that come up. I have found that, in starting my research of the area, not only do they have the main water machine that dispenses water up at the main clubhouse, there are a few of them scattered throughout the area. So whichever one's closest, that's where I'll go to get water until I get my roof built. And 8 cents a gallon is dirt cheap. I mean, it's really, considering they have to transport it there and get it into the machine so that you can buy it. 8 cents is a really good deal on water. And even if I live off completely buying their water the first couple of years let me get my calculator out here. Let's see here. If I do an average, like I said, I was drinking about a gallon a day in North Carolina, even if that's double. 2 gallons times 365 days times 0.8 cents. That's less than $60 a year I'm going to be spending on water, even if I just do all bought from the machine drinking water. So that's pretty darn affordable for something as life-saving as having a ready supply of water. But I've also found out in my research that, because, I had originally thought I was going to have to go up to Alpine to get a post office box and then make the 60-mile trip in, so 120-mile round trip just to pick up mail. And I would have, of course, combined that with grocery shopping and basically do everything in town all at once. But Terlingua has a post office with post office boxes to rent, so I can get a post office box there. And at the clubhouse where they have the water machine, they also have a swimming pool and they have a laundromat. So I think this is actually going to work out a lot better. We'll see how it goes. It's not as remote as I would have wanted, but it's also, it's quite a bit more expensive piece of property. I paid almost twice as much for this one as I did for the previous one, but my broker did give me credit for everything. So it's like I'm basically starting all over again on the same piece of property, and it's going to be fine. But there are a lot more amenities close by. Not that most people would consider having water close by an amenity for property, but when you're buying property in the desert, having water available is an amenity. It was cold here in Florida today, 42 this morning. For Florida, that's cold. Yes, I understand that is cold for Florida. I know a lot of people that they live down in Louisiana. And if it gets below 50, they've got their big heavy winter coats out and they act like the sky is falling. But I do understand it's what you're used to, what your body gets acclimated to. My mom, when she first retired all those years ago, she retired when she was 55 and now she's 86, I think, 87, somewhere in there. But when she first retired and moved down to Florida, she was always hot. And she kept her house in Ohio so that we would all have a place to gather for Thanksgiving and Christmas and the holidays. And she came back up and opened the house up and had the holidays at her house in Ohio for several years after she retired. And then one winter it got down to 34, 35 degrees while she was in Ohio one night. And she's like, that's it. I'm done. She sold the place off and never looked back. She's like, I'm never coming out of Florida. Now she's back in Ohio at an extended care facility, but it's not like she has to go outside and do stuff. But I understand it's what your body gets used to. You know, she lived in Ohio for decades and never had a problem with cold weather. And then after being in Florida for a few years, came back up to Ohio. It got cold, and she's like, "Oh, that does it." Oh, one more quick question while we're on it here. Can anybody tell that my lighting is a little different? It's not hugely different, but the light over here is up a little higher, shining down and more back on the screen. And the light that was right over here to my right is now up high, shining down from above and onto the green screen as well. I don't know if it shows any different or not, but I think the picture looks fairly good. Let's get back into the comments here. It's Granny Farrell saying hi to stuff. Hi to people. Let's see here. How far is the new property from your old plot? This is interesting. My old property was obviously 16 and a half miles out of Van Horn, but from Alpine, it was about 98 miles due west from Alpine. And now I am about 60 miles straight south of Alpine. It puts me a lot closer to the Mexican border than I really wanted to be, but Big Bend National Park and mountains are there. That's not a place where people cross. It's the terrain is rugged, to say the least. When you see the new pictures, you'll be able to see that there's one small looking mountain type thing in one of the pictures that I'm going to go try and climb when I get down there, because it's not right next to my property, but it only looks like it's from the pictures 8 or 9 properties away, which means, you know, for a 15-minute walk, I could get to the base of this mountain sticking up in the middle of the property. And there are a lot more mountains that are higher and closer where I'm at. I am still down in a desert valley, but there are a lot more mountains around me and closer. So we'll see how it goes. I'm pretty excited about it, but I'm not so excited that I'm going to rush right down there, because, you know, I spent a lot of time making sure that I had everything in place and plans for where I was going to go to get stuff. So I still have a lot of that stuff to do. And of course, on this month, I have been to Texas and back, which was a little more than $500 worth of gasoline, which basically busts my budget for this month. And by the time my budget gets renewed next month, it'll be just a week and a half, 2 weeks till Christmas. I don't feel comfortable rushing straight back down to Texas. And I've kind of come to terms with the fact that the one thing I was struggling with, but I decided I wanted to get off grid. I wanted to start doing that stuff. But I had considered putting it off a year anyway, because this is the 35th year that the dance studio I go to has been in business. And I laid the floor in her first dance studio 35 years ago. So the ability to stick around in Omaha for this winter and go be a part of her 35th anniversary show, as well as save even more money so that I have an even bigger stack of cash. I'm not saying I'm going to, but I'm starting to lean towards next fall when I go down, not planning on coming back to Omaha for a full year and a half. I think I may try, depending on what I can get done, I may stay down there through the summer next summer, the following summer, which would be 2026. We'll see what happens. Those are just my general outline plans that I'm still a long way from finalizing. Let's get back into the comments here. I was ragged yesterday, but this year I passed the vision check when I renewed my license. Good. That means you can get out there and start terrorizing the people with your driving again, Granny. I'm glad I'm not anywhere close to you. Great advice. Hello, Don. I'm glad you're here. I don't know what advice we're talking about here, but I'm glad somebody had great advice for you. That's pretty cheap. Yeah. I've been to Alpine. I think the distance is about 183 miles from where you're at, Granny, or because it's about 160 miles from my other property to my new property. I plan on going off-grid in Kansas, but I realize the seasons are far rougher than Texas. Yeah, I did look at some property in Kansas. Okay, I see that now, Don. Yes, on the money-saving tip. I'm not quick to react to comments as they come in, but we'll do the best we can here. 183 from Van Horn to Terlingua. Okay. Yeah, but I did look at property in Kansas when I was looking into this, but Kansas is only one state south of Nebraska. So you have to be prepared to deal with snow and lots of it. And, you know, Kansas and Texas are similar in the amount of wind they get. But I've been here in Omaha. Well, you saw in a recent video, if you saw a video from a couple of days ago, the wind was whipping through and branches were crackling down around me as I was walking because the wind was really strong. And I know what that kind of wind feels like with snow pellets smacking you in the face driven by that wind. And while the wind is just as bad down in Texas, I don't have to deal with the snow. So it does take, when you've got a 4-season off-grid thing that you're planning for, it takes a lot more planning and preparation. Mine is going to be, I like to call it 3 seasons because there isn't really winter where I'm going. Yes, it does get cold at night, and there is a month and a half or so where it, only gets up to 45, between 45 and 55 during the day. But that's not really dealing with winter when you're from Kansas or Nebraska. So I like to think of my property as a 3-season property. And it looks good, Bob. Good. I'm glad everybody can see me okay. That's all right. There should be a lot less crossing of the border the next 4 years. Yeah, there's that. And it just, I don't, there's always going to be some of it. But where I'm at is not a place people cross because Highway 183 is the road from Terlingua up to Alpine to get to I-10. And that's, like I said, a 60-mile run. And that's if they manage to cross the mountains. It's not a very good place for people to try and walk across the border. Yes. Missed the plan for the Omaha house once full-time. There isn't one really. 183 from Van Horn to Terlingua. Yeah. So it's quite a ways away. It's back to the east and then south. I wish I could show you on a map, but I can't seem to figure out how to share my screen. That may be something you have to do. Might have to have the paid version to do that. So it's certainly not worth worrying about at this point. But, there's the long, skinny point of Texas where El Paso is, and it kind of goes down here. And then the Rio Grande takes that sharp turn to the south. Terlingua's down there in the bottom where that sharp turn to the south kind of tapers off and goes on over. But it should be good. Like I said, it should be good. I mean, water will be closer and easier to get. The post office will actually be closer than it was when I was going to have to go into Van Horn. I still have my, it's not like I got rid of everything that I had for the off-grid property. I still have my wash bag and my line, but now that I have a whole nother year to save up, I can add just a few little things to it. Like the one thing I wanted to have with me that I didn't was I want to take not a lot, but 8 or 10 T-posts to mark the four corners of the property, and then have something to hang a tarp up on to catch a little bit of rainwater into a barrel, plus a couple of T-posts to run my my laundry line on. And who knows, maybe we get lucky and have enough money to spot a shipping container and build a roof, because I'm waiting a whole nother year to go down, because I still have the shipping container money tucked away. So that's where we're at right now. Haven't been very good about following all videos, but are you planning on using solar or solar? I'll be using solar. I have, if you go back in my playlist of getting ready for Texas, there's a video where I go through all of my solar panels. I have 2 hard panels that are 100 watts each, and then I have 4 foldable solar panels. 3 of them are 100 watts. Well, one of them is like 125 watt. And then I have my new 200 watt Renogy foldable. And each one pairs up, each set of solar panels pairs up with one of my power stations. The 2 hard panels I'm going to run into my big power station that I'm going to be running my fridge and freezer off of. The 200 watt Renogy will go into my other big one that I'll be swapping in and out with if I get behind on running the fridge and freezer. And then each of the 3 smaller solar panels have their own smaller solar setup individually. One's going to be running lights, and one is going to be charging tool batteries and camera batteries and all that kind of stuff. And the other one's just sort of an extra one right now, which I'm okay with that. But yeah, solar is going to be the main thing. As I build more permanent stuff, then perhaps I'll build out a bigger solar grid and add some wind to it to have a combination of both. We'll see what happens going forward. And I'm not saying yes or no to the shipping container at this point. I'm trying to get a hold of a guy. He actually runs workshops from his property in Terlingua about building alternative. And so I may actually end up, instead of a shipping container, I may end up with a like 30 by 30 Adobe style house, depending on how much he'll charge me to do that kind of stuff, because that's what he does, and he's right there in Terlingua. He normally charges quite a bit of money for his workshops, but if I can catch him in between workshops, and he says the cost of building a small like basically a 10 by 10 after the concrete slab is down is about $1,000 in materials. Well, if I can get the concrete slab down on like a 30 by 30 slab, and then the cost of materials is $3,000, and then I can pay him $3,000 to do the work. It might be something. I don't hold me to any of that because I haven't even gotten a hold of the guy. I sent him an email, and I'm still waiting for response on that. But I'm assuming he'll be interested. We'll see how it goes. I'm certainly not going to pay several $1,000s to go to one of his workshops to learn how to do this myself. If it comes down to that, I'll just pay to have a shipping container brought in. Don't fret it. I used to live in Lubbock, also Big Spring, Midland, Odessa, and Andrews. That used to be my area. So where are you at now, Granny Farrell? I should know that, but I don't. Lubbock seemed like a fairly decent town when I drove through it, but the only thing I can say for it is that the roads weren't quite as bad in Lubbock as they were through the rest of Texas. Being from the area of the country that I've always been from, the worst thing about driving through Texas is getting on and off of highways, because they have access roads that you have to turn down and then get on the ramp up onto the highway. Where here in Omaha and back in Ohio, there's just a big green sign that says the highway, turn here, you turn there, and you're on the ramp. It's much simpler and easier. The roads in Texas are a little bit on the confusing side to somebody that's not used to driving through Texas. You should look into Dirksen sheds. That's something I'm looking at. Let me write that down. I don't know what a Dirksen shed is, but I will certainly look it up. Shed. Yeah, I mean, now that I have basically a whole nother year to plan, I can look at even more options. I still will probably stick with my original plan of a shipping container underneath a really big roof, because I'm still going to want to collect rainwater. So we'll just have to see how it goes. I suspect that the one thing that will be easier is if they're doing road maintenance in that area, somebody in the area has heavy equipment. And I'm assuming I'll be able to pay them to come do the trench for my shipping container foundation, and maybe even get somebody to dig me a pond. We'll just have to see how it goes. I still have a lot of looking at stuff to do down there and sending of emails and talking to people, but it should be easier to find somebody with a piece of heavy equipment in that area. And Granny Farrell says she's in Georgetown now, way too close to all the Californians in Austin. I wish I was moving to Terlingua. Well, the land is cheap. I don't know that you'll find a yoga class in Terlingua or a martial arts class of any kind, but I suspect there probably will be, because there's a lot of, it's what, 19,000 square miles, something like that. I mean, it's a big county, and it's a big area of a big county, and there are a lot of different properties in the area. Don't hold me to that square miles. I've seen really big. Hello, everyone. Alpine's 245 miles south of me. I really hope this is a good place for you, Bob. 245 miles south. So roughly a 5-hour drive. So I'll expect you to come down and help me dig holes, Ronnie. Finally managed to catch you live from freezing Scotland. Well, hello, Anne Marie Graham. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by. Again, we're just sitting here talking, guys. This is what I do in my live streams. But if anybody has any actual questions, feel free to throw them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. I'm certainly not a font of knowledge, but I am happy to share my thoughts. Lots of stuff to look into for off-grid. Septic tank, probably one of my biggest risks. Yeah, and I'm in a place where I don't have to worry about that. If I want to, I'm going to use composting toilets and a composting pile to enrich the soil of my area. But with the non-regulations in most of the remote areas of Texas, if I want to dig a hole in the ground and stick an outhouse over top of it, I'm allowed to do that. I don't actually have to have a septic system because I just don't. Now, it has to be, I think there's a certain distance, things like that have to be from property lines. But if I want to dig an outhouse, I can dig an outhouse. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to be making a compost pile so that I can slowly enrich the soil and hopefully one day have green stuff growing on my chunk of desert. But yes, if you've never actually lived off grid, there is a lot of stuff to look at. Power. And the reason I chose portable power stations over building my own off-grid system to start with is because I don't feel comfortable. I've seen, because I'm coming from the van life side of things where all of the power systems are small, just enough to run a fridge and a few lights and stuff like that. I've just made that system bigger. And I've seen some people with their van life horror stories of where they spent all their time building out their van, getting things ready to go, installing their own off-grid solar system. And because they used the wrong type of wire or the wrong type of connector, all of their hard work went up in flames and they burnt their van to the ground because they didn't know what the heck they were doing with their solar stuff, which is why I'm starting with portable power stations, especially at the price of things right now. They're significantly cheaper than they were a couple of years ago. So you can get a lot more power for a lot more things in a pre-built self-contained system to where you don't have to worry about all of the little ins and outs of, running the solar panels into a charge controller, into a fuse box, into the batteries to charge, and then out to an inverter and all of that stuff. Yes, you get more bang for your buck if you know what you're doing and build your own DIY system. But once you start dealing with the amount of power that I'm going to be dealing with, as opposed to just running a little camping fridge for a van, I'm looking at running basically not a full-size fridge, but a much bigger fridge and a freezer for an off-grid property. So I need more power than just your regular van lifer would use. And if they can make mistakes in van life sized stuff that'll burn the van down, I certainly don't want to start a fire inside my shipping container or spend all that money and have batteries explode or whatever could happen. I don't want any of that to happen. That's why I have gone with the portable power station option. Whatever you decide to do, Joe, is of course entirely up to you. But let us know which route you're going on that for power. Granny says, oh, that's a talk. I've read that barley is accessible in acceptable in haggis for those that can't stand oats. Okay. Yeah, I watch Will's stuff, but I'm still not comfortable enough dealing with that kind of stuff. I just, considering the price of everything now, granted, the price of regular batteries has come down now too. There's a brand of battery out there, LifePo 4, that's 100 amp hour, 12 volt for about $140. So you can get a pretty good sized chunk of batteries. Whereas, 2 years ago, a Battleborn, which is the biggest name in batteries, for a 100 amp hour, 12 volt battery was running about $1,000. Now you can get that same battery for less than 200. And I'm not saying I won't build a big off-grid system at some point. But what I have should be plenty of power to power the shipping container, my freezer, my fridge, charge all of my batteries and my cameras, run my Starlink, do all that stuff. That's just what I'm going with. Yeah, there are several really good people out there for DIY solar power, but I personally am still not comfortable with it. Agreed, it's all depending on your needs. Yeah, and now if I was, one of the off-grid channels I watched, they were originally our Green Dream project, and now they're our Self-Reliant Life. He was originally building a solar system because he had two of his friends living there on the property with them. So they needed a big enough solar system to power all three campers. So he has plenty of electricity now that they're finally working on the second half of their house. He will have plenty of power to keep their house in power. And it's actually his project that gave me the idea for the great big rain roof. Because he has a massive rain roof that he built from scratch. And his design is basically what I'm going to copy when it comes time. I'm just going to raise it just a hair higher so that it goes over top of my shipping container and provides extra shade for the shipping container as well. But there are a lot of things when it comes to living off-grid that you have to consider. Where's your property located versus where can you go to get water? Basically, your basic services: water, electricity, food, water, and shelter are the three things you have to take care of first. And then you have to take in consideration how far away it is to get building supplies to your property. And that's the one spot that's going to be a little more expensive on the new property than it would have been where I was at. Getting building supplies will be quite a bit more expensive if I'm making a big order from someplace like a Lowe's or a Home Depot, because unfortunately the closest Home Depot to me, I believe, is still in El Paso, Texas, which is going to make it 250 miles away to the closest Home Depot. But in Alpine, there is a store that has access to lumber and hardware and that kind of stuff. And while I may pay more for the product, if they can get it in, not having to ship it in from 250 miles away and just going in to pick it up with my truck, so be it if that's what I have to do. That's just one of the things that you have to deal with when you live out in the middle of nowhere. You have to, look at where your supplies are going to be coming from. Gosh, I haven't changed that banner since we got started. So if you have any questions or comments, you can always send them to me at semiretiredbob@yahoo.com. And the name I couldn't remember when I was out there the other day, it is written on the side of my trailer now. It'll be in tomorrow's video. But Franklin, if you're watching this, thank you very much. Franklin is the kind person who hit my PayPal account for $50 to help me take care of my road problem. And I do appreciate that. Not that I'm asking anybody to donate money, but if you want to, I have a PayPal, I have a Buy Me a Coffee, I have channel memberships, I have all that stuff. But really, the best way you can support this channel is still just watching my videos when you get a chance, hitting that thumbs up button. If I say something especially stupid, share it with your friends. That's really the best way to support this channel. And I do appreciate each and every one of you stopping by to say hello. I need another drink. I don't know why I'm so dry today, but I am. Maybe it's because I've been walking so much. So we've got about 14 minutes left. So if anybody has anything that they would like to talk about, ask about, now's the time to get those questions in, because like I said, we got about 13 minutes left to chat. I just saw a comment come up here. Yes, and I'm going to make another video about this soon. I've done it before, and it's just one of those things that I have to do from time to time, because I do still get questions. Bob, why do you do this? I mean, looking at your view counts and your subscribers, you're obviously not making any money at YouTube. Why do you do this? And it's why I jumped on it originally way back, 2.5 years ago, after I did that first, well, it was September 2 years ago, when I did that first walk. I'd even said at the time, I'm certainly not going to be making videos every day, but I'll try to show you some of my walks as I go. But if I can reach, I know what my life was like before carnivore for the entire previous 58 years. It was a steady journey downhill into worse and worse health. And if I can reach one person and they end up having a little bit better life for having found my videos, then that makes it all worthwhile. Would I like to make money at YouTube? Of course I would. But that's not my primary motivation. My primary motivation is hopeful that somebody gets a little piece of information from one of my videos that they can take and make themselves a better life. That's why I do this. Sure, Bob, I'll bring a Matic. Not really. I'm too old at 77. I knew that when I said that, Franny. I know about how old you are, but I do appreciate the thought. I really do. What was the menu like on the road? Oh, I didn't eat. I don't generally eat when I travel. I usually just don't eat. Because I left here, drove down straight through, spent 12, 13 hours down in Texas, and then drove straight through back again. I never ate. I got home, I slept, I woke up. I started heating up the hamburger patties that I'd made so that I could, if you recall from a few videos ago, I made a whole bunch of hamburger patties so that I had them in the fridge in my trailer, so that I wouldn't have to worry about cooking for the first couple of weeks as I was getting set up in Texas. And that's basically what I've been eating since I got back. I did just get a grocery order in yesterday. It might have been the day before. But if I bought myself a couple of little treats because it's Thanksgiving. When I say a couple of little treats, they're still carnivore. I mean, I got a double pack a double pack of 18 eggs. I got a couple of 10-pound tubes of hamburger. But then I also got a tub of Parmesan cheese and a bottle of hot sauce. So for my Thanksgiving meal, I'm going to take one bag of the ground beef that I separated out and put in the freezer. I'm going to brown that up. And then I'm going to dump the tub of Parmesan cheese into it and splash a bunch of hot sauce into it. And that's going to be my little treat. I also bought a package of Swiss cheese and some pepperoni. So I'll probably make those as finger food for one day. I like to take, not very often, of course, but I like to take pepperoni and basically put a stack of it, roll it up into a slice of Swiss cheese and eat that. Yeah, and Tiny Shiny Home is another one I watch. And yes, he does have a PDF, and he has all the off-grid power for his homestead. He's a lot smarter than I am. And I may look at something like that 2-3 years down the line when I need a bigger system. For now, the system I got is just fine. Let's see here. I was going to say that you'll be in a good place for hunting. You might get the occasional javelina, feral pig deer, or escaped exotic African beasts, usually from the big hunting ranches. Yes, and part of the agreement thing that goes with moving into this area, they do state quite clearly that hunting anything on your own land is absolutely allowed, no matter the season. If it's on your land, you're allowed to shoot it. If it's on somebody else's land, you have to have written permission from that landowner to shoot it. But I'm not a huge hunter, but I do plan on doing some hunting. I don't even think I'd call it hunting. I will have a boomstick close at hand, and if something that looks tasty happens to wander across my property, I will probably try to drop it and have it end up in my freezer. That's about as far as my hunting will go. Let's see here. Yes, those feral pigs are a menace. Yeah, and there's quite a few menaces that roam the desert. I don't, like I said, I don't expect any of that to be a huge problem. Yes, I am out in the middle of nowhere, but in looking at current satellite photos, I've got a neighbor like 2 properties up and 3 properties over, and then on down the road, one of the roads that crosses in front of my property, it's a few miles down the road, but down the road to the east, there are a couple of Airbnb glamping places where they have some yurts set up. Because apparently that's popular in that area. People come there to stay, to go to Big Bend National Park, and that may be something I look into. Whether it be pouring a slab of concrete to park a camper on, or once I get my stuff built, putting a yurt on the property for somebody else that wants to stop by and stay on occasion. I may look at something like that. We'll just see. I mean, 10 acres is enough land to do everything I want to do, plus something else, if because I'm told that there is tourist travel at certain times of the year in that area. Um, so I'll have to see if I can't maybe carve off a little slice. Starlink is significantly better. Um, Even at 5G speeds, you can only get just so much through a cell phone link. Um, and my Starlink moves much faster than that. And, one of the big things I was worried about before I went down there, before I misread the maps I was debating between T-Mobile home internet and Starlink. Well, the one thing, because I did buy I didn't buy the business, but for personal use, I bought the top end roaming Starlink plan, which comes with it the ability to pause the service. So I'm not going to have to pay for it at $165 a month for the next year. It'll just be sitting out there so when I get ready to go, I can activate the service and go again. If I had gotten the T-Mobile home internet, I would be paying $65 a month for the next 12 months not to use it. Or I would have to cancel it and then pay all the activation and everything else all over again. Either way, the Starlink has ended up being a better deal. And the one thing that's different about this property, I did check and I had 5 bars, not 5G, but I did have 5 bars of LTE service on my phone at the county road near where my old piece of property was. Looking at the map, there's not a lot of cell service in the Terlingua area. So the Starlink is going to be even more important there. I work for T-Mobile, but I get it. You have to do what works best. Yeah. And, the whole thing that I ran into, Joe, is when I was originally deciding between the two, I looked at the map because I don't have T-Mobile. I have Mint, which is a subcarrier of T-Mobile, but it runs on the same network. But I originally looked at the T-Mobile coverage map and assumed that if there was T-Mobile coverage that I could get T-Mobile home internet there. I don't know if it works or not, but when I actually went to the T-Mobile home internet gateway and looked at the maps, it showed only a small square that covers the Van Horn area as a place where you could get T-Mobile home internet. I don't know how all that works, but the Starlink, even setting it up here in my yard in Omaha with trees blocking the way, it's still got a pretty doggone good signal. Now, is it as fast as my gigabit internet here at the house? No, not by a long shot. But considering I got the mini that it runs off of, I could even take my smallest power station and run the Starlink off of my smallest power station for more than a day. I could take the Starlink camping with me, and it would fit in my backpack, and I could carry it with me on a camping trip, and then set it up to have internet at night, regardless of where I'm at. It's too good. It's too convenient. This is not a sales push for Starlink, but me personally, so far, I really like it. Yep. And if you happen to be in the area where the T-Mobile home internet works for you, then by all means, that's the route I would go because it's a lot cheaper than Starlink service. And that's really what I'm all about, using the best solution to any problem you might have but also considering the economics of it in that, which is why I went with power stations. Every power station I have was purchased on sale. So if a current power station is currently selling for $1,800, you can bet I got it for $900 or less. All of the power stations I have, I bought because they were on either 50% blowout sale. The Jackery that I have, the newest Jackery, which is the Jackery 2000 Pro, it's actually a discontinued model because they came out with the Jackery 2000 version 2. It's basically the same unit. I got mine for $900 or so, and the new Jackery version 2, because it's the newest thing, is selling for about $1,800. So I got the older version of the newest thing at a very deep discount. And I was with Sprint before, 25 years in January. Yeah. So anyway, we are now past the hour mark. Thank you to everyone who's hung out with me today for this hour. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully you had as good a time as I did. But let's not forget to get out there and be 1% better. Today, tomorrow, and every day. Have a great day, folks. I will see you in the next one.